Okay, we're online. My name's Colonel Denny Peoples, Arizona 2006-3 in Prescott, Arizona. We're actually having a additional classes, training classes for orienteering. We have a subject matter expert, Mr. Glenn Haselfeld from Phoenix, who's actually moved up here to Prescott. He is his expert in orienteering background and I guess amateur, right? Hobbyist, professional as you'll get. We're going to have actually 3 sessions. This is the first one of that. The preface to the session, if you care, is on YouTube at PrescottJROTC. It's called Orienteering 101, and this sort of ties in and augments that training. Everybody give a round of applause, please.
So, I haven't had a chance to meet most of you, but my name is Glenn Haselfeld, and my background, well, first my background professionally, I graduated from the University of Washington as an electrical engineer, and spent most of my career down in Goodyear, Arizona, at the Lockheed Martin plant. Down there, and most of the plant, what they do is they make high-resolution systems, and mostly those are radar systems. So, like I see the little model of the SR-71 Blackbird over here that reminds me of a program that was classified for many years, where we put a radar in there that could look at night, look through smoke, look through whatever, off at a 100-mile distant range, and provide a good standoff capability for reconnaissance. As far as orienteering, I really started in high school, right, with Explorer Search and Rescue and learned some land navigation. But I got into the sport of orienteering probably about 15 years ago. I'm one of the kind of core members of the Greater Phoenix Orienteering Club down in Phoenix, and I set up a lot of the events and have quite a bit of experience doing the courses. By the way, I did do the map. We have the new Pioneer map that you guys will be doing next week, and that's actually the example that you'll have in front of you. So this is the same base map that you guys will be running on. It's just that what we have here is a course that actually Nakai did for me, so we can just use it for instructional purposes. Okay, so let's kind of go through what we're going to talk about today. Again, everybody here I think has seen the Orienteering 101, which is a really good basic background on it. So I'm going to rely on a lot of what you already saw there. This is really a skills building session, okay? So really I want to take you from understanding the basics to learning some techniques that's going to make you more reliable, be able to recover from errors faster, and just get faster times on the course. So the handouts, some of them are kind of distributed around, and it doesn't look like we have quite enough compasses, so we may have to do a little bit of sharing on the exercises. But what we have is I put this out here to protect you from me, basically. So I have a tendency to use orienteering terminology. Like I use the term reentrant when most people would call it a dry wash or something like that. So I'll try and define those things as I go through, but if I mess up, they should be on the little sheet of paper in front of you there. Also, there's a little summary sheet that's the parts of the compass. So when I get to the exercise and I start talking about, what a meridian line is or a base plate, you guys can take a quick look at that just in case you've forgotten the terminology.
We have a lot of different backgrounds here, so if anybody has any questions, I'm sure people online have the same question. Raise your hand and ask questions, okay guys?
Yes, certainly. Okay, and then there's a couple exercises. So the first one will be is the Pioneer map that you see in front of you, and then we may defer the other exercise depending on time allotment to do that on the next session. Okay, so orienteering. So orienteering, a competitive international sport that combines racing and navigation. So the idea, I think, as all of you here know, is you get the map, you have the little red circles on there, and the idea is to try and get out there as quickly as possible and find the little marker, which is similar to the one that's shown here, notionally hanging on the cactus. I really like orienteering because it has a lot of distinctive features that other sports just don't have. It's unique in the sense that if you think of a normal road race, right, there's not a lot of thought into where you go. You just follow the course. On orienteering, there is no set course, right? You get to choose the path, which is hopefully the most efficient one that will get you the fastest from point A to point B. For that reason, it's both physically and mentally challenging. And so unlike a normal road race where usually you can figure out who's going to win because he's the person in the best physical condition, that's not true in orienteering. Okay, the mental skills are at least as important as the physical skills in orienteering, and it's still true that a lot of people have been doing it for years. Some of the fastest orienteers in the country are like in their 40s and 50s. It's a sport that you can really continue to learn on and get better at and better at over time. And routinely we'll see that that the skilled, slower orienteers will outperform the less skilled, faster, younger orienteers. In fact, that's kind of what that little quad sheet on there is showing. So it's kind of a where you are in there. Somewhere you might fall somewhere in the spectrum of from left to right. Left is skilled, right is unskilled. The top is fast, the bottom is slow. So you fit in there somewhere. Hopefully you're not down in the bottom right corner. I want to get out of there. And obviously, what we want to do is look at these new methodologies that will progress you from being an unskilled orienteer to a skilled orienteer. And by the way, if you have a choice of being unskilled and fast versus skilled and slow, usually the skilled and slow will win out over the unskilled and fast. Okay, so orienteering is a lot of fun. Clearly, it's something I've been doing for years, and hopefully you guys have found that from your experiences in orienteering as well. But one thing a lot of people don't realize in this country is just how big this sport is in European countries. So if we go to the next slide here, this is a picture of the O-Ringen, which is the world's largest orienteering fest. But try and imagine an orienteering contest in Sweden that's 15,000 competitors, right? That's like 100 times one of our JROTC events. Hugely popular over there. It's embedded into their school structure. So a lot of people think it's fun. It's not just me. Okay, so I want to do a quick review of the map on here. And this one you might actually want to zoom in on the content here, Denny.
Okay.
All right, so this map is very similar to what you're going to have on any other kind of map. It's got the same basic features. What you see in the black is trails and roads and things like that. And it has the contour lines that are indicating the elevation. But the orienteering maps also have a few other kind of unique features. The most important one, probably, is the fact that, let's see if I can get my mouse here. Whoops. I advanced instead of... Okay, that's a very sensitive mouse. All right, so the lines that you see, the black lines that are not quite vertical going up to the side are magnetic north lines. So I think most of you know that the magnetic pole is not the same place as the physical pole, the North Pole on the Earth, right? So there's normally a declination that if you're just using a normal map, you would have to account for when you do your orienteering. Since the orienteering map has it, we just do all of our orienteering relative to that, and we don't have to worry about declination. Okay. The other things that are specified on here, the contour lines have a contour interval that's on here. In this case, on the Pioneer map, it's going to be 20 feet. And then it's got a scale. In this case, this one actually says it's 1 to 12,000. This is actually the first water map on a Phoenix Orienteering Club map. And then you've also got a legend on there that's going to tell you what the symbols mean on there. So in terms of an orienteering map, there are some standard things that you'll always see on there. So when you look at these things, you can quickly identify what they are. And they're colors. Now we have a color map, right? That's very good. So black are two things. Man-made features. So these are going to be your roads, your trails, those kinds of things. But it can also be large rock formations, boulders, those kind of items. Brown are topographic features, which is really your contour. And the contour lines will have two types. You'll have the normal contour lines, and then usually it's every fifth one. There's a bolder one that's called an index contour. That's just there to make your eye easier to pick up and understand and interpret the contours. White for most of the world means normal forest. For us in Arizona, it means whatever generically is out there. So it's chaparral forest, or it's going to be desert down in if you're down in Phoenix. Okay. Yellow indicates clearings and fields, and I mean, so yellow, if you think like a football field, you think, oh, it should be green because it's grass, but no, it will appear as yellow because it's just a cleared, cultivated piece of land. The green is reserved for vegetation. Okay. Now, for the Phoenix maps, most of the ones you see here, there's not a lot of vegetation marking on it, but generally it's going to be a dark green, and that means stay away from it because that means it's something nasty out there that you don't want to go through. Okay. All right, so what I want to do is I just want to get everybody refamiliarized with orienting the map, and this is going to be where we first get our first technique, or maybe a variation of a technique from maybe what you learned. So this is showing the parts of the compass. So we ought to make sure we ought to team up with the compasses, and everybody should have a map.
Make sure everybody has a compass and a map, guys. Get together. Extra compass over there.
Okay, while he's doing that, I want to point out a couple of things.
Anybody need a compass? How many compasses do you have here? Give me one of those compasses. No?
Okay? All right, when we do this exercise, it may be a little bit different than how a lot of people learn it, because I really want you to concentrate on only two things. Okay, I want you to focus on the magnetic needle, right? That's the part that usually is the wobbly thing that moves around. And I also want you to focus on the direction of travel arrow that's on there, okay? We're not going to use meridian lines right now. We're not going to be rotating the dial. That's actually something we'll get to a little bit later when we talk about bearings. But for orienting the map, strictly speaking, you don't need to do that, okay? So what I want to do is have everybody, okay, stand up and get with whoever has your compass. And everybody take a look at the map. And anytime you pick up one of these maps, you should probably look at it to understand what is the scale. This is a 1 to 10,000 scale. And then notice where the magnetic north lines are. And on this particular map, they're blue lines. Okay? And you want to make sure that the north end of them, you understand where the north end of the magnetic lines are. Because if you do that backwards, it'll send you in totally the wrong direction. Okay, so just hold it straight up like this. What we're going to do, first I'm going to show you the kind of the classic method that most people learn by, that you'll see on the web a lot, which is just trying to orient the map so that you're facing north. Now, you're going to be holding it up, but what you really want to do is you're going to be wanting to hold it at waist level out in front of you with the north meridian lines up, because we're going to point ourselves north. And then what you want to do is you want to take the direction of travel arrow, or equivalently, you can use the base plate on the side, they're both parallel, and that's the direction that you're going to be pointing in. And since we're going to be pointing north, what you're going to do is you're going to line the base plate or the arrow with the magnetic north lines. Okay? You do that? Okay, and then holding it at waist level.
Okay, guys, stand up. Let's do it. Any questions asked?
Again, we're ignoring the dial, we're ignoring the meridian lines, we're ignoring the orienting arrow for now. We're just focusing on the magnetic needle and the base plate, or the direction of travel. Okay, so now that you have that out in front of you, you want to have that base of that compass toward your belly button, arrow pointed out away from you. And now I think you can see you guys are doing it already. Start rotating, and rotate until that magnetic arrow aligns with the north direction on the magnetic line. Everybody do that? Why don't you walk around and make sure you do that?
It's supposed to be touching, but
See you all basically pointed north, so that's a very good sign. Got it? That's the direction you want to go.
I have to learn, you know.
Now, rotate, listen close. Rotate your whole body, see how the arrow is moving relative to that. And when this is parallel to that, you're pointed north. Everybody got that? Okay, so this is the base plate.
Wait, what is it? Is it just like
This is your direction of travel.
take me with you? I wanted to just
Now, see, this is pointed.
yeah, dude. I'll train. I'll try. If not, then I'll just go and cheer you guys on.
Anybody else? Got that? All right, you notice we didn't have to take a bear to do this, right?
I'll just go and cheer you guys on.
Hey, you got it.
Guys like Gatorades after.
All right, so any question on it? How you guys doing? You guys have Okay. This, we're gonna have a little raise. Now you're gonna watch your whole body. So this Right. So now this is aligned with that. Okay?
So we're doing north that way.
Okay. Okay, you should still be standing up because we're not done yet.
Hey, get up, guys.
And I took somebody's stuff.
But I made my sister cry. I'm like, you need to stop. Yeah.
All right, so everybody get up and face north with your map. All right, we're all aligned. Okay, so now we're facing north, and let's now imagine we're at the symbol number 1 on the map. Everybody see where the number 1 is, the first control? So let's imagine we're there. If this is oriented, what you should see is you should see that terrain out in front of you exactly correlated to what's on the map. So, you know, if I looked out kind of off to my left, out this direction, you'd see the big pit, right? If you looked off to your right over here, you'd see the baseball field. Everybody see that? So everything should be in relation to what you see out there on the map so that you could tell what's what, okay? Now, let's say again, we're oriented, we're facing north, we're at number 1. Now, suppose I tell you that you want to go from point 1 to point 2. What direction do you need to go? Which direction is it relative to you?
Behind it.
It's behind you, right? Okay, so this is darn inconvenient, right? Because you've oriented the map to north and then you want to go the other way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start showing you a technique that's going to get you facing the right way, but it's also going to set you up nicely for another technique we're going to introduce, which is called thumbing the map and staying in contact with the map. Now, what does staying in contact with the map mean? Staying in contact with the map means that if I was walking with you as a group and I stopped you at any point in time, you could point to me exactly within like maybe 50 meters where you are on that map. And if I said, where's the hill over there up here on the map, you'd be able to point to it and say, oh, it's this contour line over here, okay? Now, most beginners, right, or unskilled orienteers, they're 90% compass, 10% map, right? An experienced orienteer is completely the opposite. They're going to be 90% map, interpreting the map, 10% compass. The compass is usually just a rough guide for the direction that you want to go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold the map so that we can do the thumbing technique. Okay, and this is going to prove invaluable out in the field because the thumbing not only does it help you stay in contact with the map, but your eyeball will look at the map and you're instantly right where you're at. You don't have to search for it. You know, you see a lot of people flipping pieces of paper and going, what was I again? And it's very distracting. So the thumbing will help out a lot. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go from 1 to 2. So again, from the source to the destination, you want to have, if you're holding it level, you want to have it at your belly button. So you want number 1 towards your belly button, number 2 in the direction you're roughly going to go. And then we're going to fold the map into about a 4-inch by 4-inch piece. And 4 inches by 4 inches is just so you can move the map with your thumb conveniently anywhere on there and hold it quite well. Okay? So what I want you to do, I'm going to hold the 1 to 2 vertically. I want to fold the left side, maybe, an inch, inch and a half off to the left of it so I can sort of see the terrain around it and do a fold like that. Everybody do that. Okay? And then this part down here, right, we're going from 1 to 2, we don't need it, right? So we're going to fold the bottom up so that maybe you can sort of see the 1 that kind of at the bottom, get a little bit behind where you're at, like that. Okay, and actually this would probably be good enough for this particular leg you're running, but since we're just have a lot of time here, we'll fold it up like this. And so now, does everybody have point 1 to 2? Yeah. I'll get them with these. You got it?
Next is this one. It's not supposed to be like that. No. Is this supposed to be diagonal or straight line?
Go ahead, ask the next one.
Or guide, wish you guys want this to be Let's just. Got him. But. Hey, let's take it easy.
Everybody got it? Well, it's a little big. See, if you're going 1 to 2, this part comes from the knee.
Okay, next one.
That's actually, the only reason why I say that is because I want people.
This way? Diagonal? And then,
Everybody else got a full advantage?
straight. Are these supposed to be diagonal?
Diagonal.
Yeah.
So really, you're just trying to make it parallel to the leg. So I would
Like, are you
fold
gonna
this
find a
one.
bookstore?
Going from 1 to 2, you already have this one folded. You had it right. That was mine, right?
Good job.
Way to go, Mel. Second time.
Okay, guys, so y'all just trying to make it more efficient so when you run, okay? Everybody got it?
This will help you out a lot.
You realize you'll be doing this for real here today. You're on the campus.
That's right. I've been practicing this. I'm sorry, question? This week is all kind of messed up.
So is this, like, is there other things like this, or is this just technique?
This is the predominant technique amongst orienteers. There are many different methods among many different people, but all the best orienteers that I know, they all do this map folding this way.
So do like at competitions and such, do they sometimes like make the map to where it's easier to fold?
Not typically not. So what you're going to do is when you finish your leg from 1 to 2, the next thing you're going to do is refold the map again to get to the next one.
Usually when you see it, there's just one people folding it in half and shoving it in the pocket and pulling it out.
We're trying to teach you a better way.
Yes.
That is the old way. This is the new.
So orienteering is all about efficiency, right? So all this stuff that you do out there where you're fumbling with the compass, you're fumbling with your hands, looking at the map a million times, that all wastes time. And you're trying to get there as quickly as possible. So they're all techniques to make you a better orienteer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to reorient to go. Everybody needs to stand up again because we're still not done.
Everyone needs to stand up.
Good job.
Okay. So now we got it nicely folded. We're going to eventually be using our thumb to track our progress when we go on the route. But for now, what I want you to do is get you pointed in the right direction. So for now, we'll talk about route planning in a minute, but right now, we're going to assume we're going to go straight line from 1 to 2. Okay? So this is actually very similar to what we just did to orient the map, but we're going to use the direction of travel arrow, and we call it direction of travel because that's the direction you're going to travel in. So we're going to point that arrow from 1 to 2. So you probably can't see it, but 1 is at the bottom, right? Because that's where we're going from. 2 is at the top. And let's just take the base plate for convenience and put it along the side. Has everybody got that? Okay. Again, you're going to be holding it at your waist. You're going to have that base of that compass at your belly button. You're going to have the arrow pointing away from you, right? And now it's the same thing. You're going to rotate your body as a unit, focusing just on that magnetic needle line. Now it's a little tougher. You have to be careful which way north on the magnetic lines is when it's folded up in a little square, right? So usually you can use the printing as a cue. Normally north is more towards the top. So if you see the 2 is upside down, it really means the north arrow is kind of will be facing towards the bottom of your folded piece of paper, okay? So you want to get that red arrow pointed in parallel to the magnetic line, and you want it kind of at the bottom of your folded map, okay? So does everybody hold it out in front of you and rotate around, okay? And when you think you've got the red arrow parallel to that magnetic north line, at that point in time, you will be pointed exactly where you want to go. Okay, that's south-facing legs. It'll probably tell you that you're not going to be wanting to face north. You'll probably want to face more south. Have you got that? Yeah, you got it. So you've got it, okay, you want to go from here to here.
This way? That way.
Yeah, you are, but you really want your body to rotate. See, that's why this direction travel arrow is so important. You want to keep it there as a unit because as you rotate around, you're changing your direction. Basically,
There you go.
problem is it's south.
When are we running?
One and you do the other way. There you go. Oh, you guys, you guys got it?
You said you want us just to find it. So wait, you want us to?
I don't want you to go from 1 to 2. Anytime we go from 1 to 2, you're going to have.
This map is not saying anything on a wall.
Slimy water.
Hi. How's it going?
Wheat.
You like turtles?
Right there.
Water. You do never eat.
Now you're
Never
rotating
eats
your entire body with this line.
Can I guess? Try me, I'll teach you. I can do it.
So you need to rotate.
You just need to get it.
Oh, like this?
You can do it, I swear.
We're gonna be paired.
All right. So now that's lined up with the arrow. This direction of travel arrow now points where you want to go. Exactly. You're not worried at the map. Looking around, you just look here. You want to hit that.
We want to be together because it's all can't be directions.
That'd be really funny. Where do we go? I don't know. I love it. You guys are like little lost ducklings.
No, literally. If you put two little ducklings together and they get confused, they just follow each other in a circle. It's so cute.
I love it. I'm like, oh. I'm north. You're south.
I never saw this.
And that's why.
Yes.
I'm happy. Like, oh,
That's correct. Make sure it's
This
actually northwards. All you did was wrong. There's two ways to get there.
until like 2 a.m. And then we got up at like 6 and I went home at like 8 and I was like, oh, so tired. Can't function. So then my parents were like, you know what we should do? Let's go work out. Let's go shopping after. So you can't sleep. I was like, yay. And then I think that's how I was waiting for 12.
Nope, we're ignoring you. I know that's
I'm
probably
going to be like wanting you to run a mile right now. I was running. I was like,
in 2 hours. How about you guys?
like, I love that.
Okay, and again, if you're doing this, you can also compute a bearing from it if you want to or need to. We'll talk about that the next session, but you don't really need to. In fact, some of the best orienteers never take a bearing. In fact, let me show you a thumb compass. So here's what I call a thumb compass that most advanced orienteers use. It doesn't have a rotating dial on it. I couldn't tell you if we were at 147 degrees to save my life, right? All I could tell you is basically northeast, southwest. And you just put it on there, and all I do is align the magnetic needle with those blue magnetic north lines, and that orients the map for me, tells me what direction I need to go. Okay? Somebody had a question. Okay. All right, well, very good. It's good to have a good refresher, and I'm hoping you guys, when we talk about the bearings, if you guys, I know you guys probably learned, a lot of people learn how to do the bearing method first with the protractor, and then rotate, and then put it in a little box. If you're more comfortable with doing that, a slight variation on this is once you orient that map, you can twist the dial and use it as a protractor in exactly the same way. And if you're more comfortable doing that, I can work with you to make sure. I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with what they do before they go out next week. Okay? All right, you could be seated and we'll go on with the lecture part here.
Don't even sit in your chair.
Okay, so now we're going to start talking about some of the techniques for how we're going to plan a route. And most of that will be on the second session. Now what I really want to do is talk about interpreting the map. Thank you. Interpreting the map, and the place that people have the most difficulty with that is contour lines. Okay, so I want to spend some time with that, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable with that, and that's a big help when you want to plan your routes, because you want to know if you're going to have to go over a hill or through a valley when you're planning it. So contour line is a line that just joins things of equal height, and I always think of this water and flood every time I do that. In fact, there's a pretty good example, I think, on this first one right here. So here's an example of a notional hill, right? It's steep on one side, more gradual on the other. And the lines, the dashed lines that you see that are going around the circumference of the bottom part of the figure are your contour intervals, right? So in this case, it's whatever, 10 feet, I think, as you go up there. So visualize looking at that contour at the very bottom and drawing a line around that, and you'd get the outside line on the upper diagram. And then think of flooding water, right? So you raise the water level 10 feet. And then if you looked at it from 10,000 feet straight down on it and drew that water line, you get another circle, concentric circle that's on the inside of that. And so on and so forth. As you keep raising the water, it's going to go up. And then I think most people can identify hills as being the smallest circle is the hilltop inside of the other ones. Okay?
You got a question here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How do you know the difference between whether it's going up or down?
We're going to talk about that in just a second.
Good question.
It's an excellent question because that's where most people get confused. Okay, so each contour line is a constant interval. It'll be 20 feet on your map. So a line that's farther apart, right? So if it's going up 10 feet over a longer distance, it's going to be more gradual, right? So the contour lines are farther apart. That means it's less slope. If you look at the other side, where it's steeper, the lines are going to be closer together. Okay? Okay, so to answer your question here, so the contour lines, really what you're trying to do is identify what the terrain features are, right? And the four main ones you're going to have is you're going to have a ridge or a spur. To me, they're both pretty much the same thing. A hilltop, most people know that because of the closed circle on it. What I call a reentrant or a dry wash, right? And then a saddle. Okay, the key to doing this is to do exactly what you suggest, is identify where uphill is. Because once you know where uphill and downhill are, then with a few simple rules, you can tell whether it's a ridge or a reentrant. Okay, so 4 ways to determine uphill. Well, those index contours, on most maps, like a USGS topo map, they label them. So it'll say 6,400 feet on this one, and you look at the next one, it's 6,200 feet. Well, 64 is higher than 62. That helps you out. That's not going to help you in an orienteering map, because we don't label them. So you have to use a different technique. Closed contour lines is a very key element. So if you're looking around and see a bunch of funny lines that you don't understand, try and zoom out a little bit and see if you can find some closed contours, see if you can see where a hilltop is nearby, because the hilltop is going to be higher than the terrain around it. So that'll tell you kind of locally where it falls. If you look at water courses, can sometimes give you a clue. All right, so if you look at the kind of the blue notional stream there, if you just think about topography and how water flows, it looks like a branch, right? As water starts up as smaller things, they kind of run down until they run together and it's a little bit bigger, and then it kind of runs down and hits another bigger one and gets bigger and bigger as you go down. So if you're lucky enough to see the blue lines, there aren't a lot of those on Arizona maps, but you can use that as an indicator. In this case, uphill is at the top and downhill is at the bottom. You can also use the contour lines to identify this a lot of times. On this chart, it's called a box Y, so that little brown thing that looks, other people call them bunny ears. What that indicates is, we'll talk about the shape of that in a moment. They call it a boxed Y. The Y is actually the two stream junctions that come together to form a Y. And the boxing is the contours that go around it. But it's a distinctive shape, it catches your eye, and so sometimes that'll alert you that the bunny ears are uphill and downhill is downhill from there. But the main rule really for reentrance is that their contour lines are going to point uphill, right? And for the ridges, it's going to point downhill. Now, generally, this doesn't always happen. In fact, it tripped me up in an orienteering meeting yesterday. But usually the reentrants are more of a V shape, and ridges tend to be more rounded and sort of more rounded shape. That's general, but there are a lot of exceptions out there to that. If you can't remember which is which point uphill, what point downhill, I like to think of my hand and think of taking my hand and putting it in the water dish. So my hand is actually a slope, right? You think about your fingers here, they're going to kind of like be the ridges. And the part between your fingers is where the water would flow, right? It would just flow between them. So if I took my hand, I stuck it in a water dish and then drew a circle around where it goes, as I go around the ridge, those contour lines are going to point downhill, right? As you go into a reentrant or wash or whatever you want to call it, they're going to point uphill. Okay? So if you ever forget, you can just think about your hand. Okay? All right. So here's a little exercise. We've got, let's see a profile of the hill on the upper left over there, and then how that maps to, if somebody's sampling it every 25 feet, how that maps to the contour intervals on it. And you can sort of see how the two hills come out there, and you can also tell just by looking at the contours that the part on the right is going to be taller than the one on the left, right? Everybody understand why that is? Because there's two contour lines on the right, only one contour line on the left. So therefore you're going to be looking for something that's not symmetrical, higher on one side than the other. Okay, so that's going to map over here. Here's some examples then of again, these are all closed contours here, and as they get tighter and tighter to the inside, that's going to be going uphill, right? So obviously number one is a hilltop, right? Okay, so if we look at some of these other things, let's look at some of these other contours going over here, like all these that labeled 3. Notice the contours look more V-shaped. Right, in this example, you notice that the contours are pointing uphill, so therefore it is a reentrant. Right? These contours downhill, therefore they're a ridge or a spur. They make a distinction here. I don't really know what the difference is. The example of the boxed Y is also on here. Sort of see the little bunny ears up here? What that's telling you is you have two reentrants that are going to come together and they're going to meet somewhere around where the number 4 is over there. So that would be a reentrant junction. It's a very common control point on an orienteering map. Any questions on that? Anybody? Oh, I'll talk about saddles too. So what is a saddle? So a saddle, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's like that. It's like a deal where the mountain kind of goes like that.
Yeah, it looks like a saddle, right? So what it is it's usually a low point, usually on kind of a ridge between two hills. And the distinctive thing about it is, let's say if you were standing on this saddle, kind of on the upper right, if you put your back to one hill and face the other hill, you'd have uphill behind you, you'd have uphill in front of you, and off to the sides, it's going to go downhill. Okay, that's all. There's also a clue there, knowing about that for a saddle, for how you can identify one and how you can get to one faster. So a lot of times what you'll see on a contour line, if you think about if it's uphill that way, and downhill this way, where's the water going to go? It's going to flow off to the side of the saddles. So very often you'll see a reentrant bend in here, and that's kind of a key that there's definitely a saddle right there. And also, if you're trying to get up to that saddle, right, what can you use as a guide that'll take you to the saddle with the minimum elevation gain? It's going to be follow that reentrant, right? So use that reentrant as a guide, go right up there. That way you don't go to the hill first, you go climb, you do the minimum climb. Okay, everybody got that? Okay, so.
Why don't you remind them what a reentrant is?
Okay, a reentrant's a dry wash. So, is it a ridge or a reentrant?
Reentrant.
And you're guessing that because it's
You said it.
Pointing.
it's pointing. That's a good guess, but really, a lot of times, and you're going to find this a lot, especially when you have your little folded map here, you can't tell. Okay, sorry. It could be ambiguous, right? It could be a pointy ridge going that way. It could be a reentrant going that way. So when you find yourself in that situation where you just see a bunch of cluttered lines, what you need to do is zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Okay, so look out the context that's farther on around you. Go out to where you can find a closed contour. right? Because you know that's going to be a hilltop. And if it's a hilltop on a contour that's higher than where you're at, and so we know that since these are higher hills and this is a saddle, we know that these contours are pointing uphill, so therefore it is a re-entry. Got it? Okay, great. So here's our quiz. All right, so here on the left, you've got some different shapes. They're all hilltops of one kind or another, and off to the right you have a bunch of shapes, and we're going to try and match them up. Okay, so let's look at number 1. Okay, so what can you tell me about the relative shape of this half versus this half?
The right side's taller.
Right side's taller. So you're going to look over here and see if can you find a hill B. You got it? Perfect. What about number 2? What can you tell me about that shape? Steep. Only 1 point, right? Only 1 point.
For sure that's E.
So I think that's E.
E for elephant.
Okay. All right. Number 3, you have to think about it a little bit here. So tell me about number 3.
They're relatively the same
It's
size.
D.
So D, well, okay, you have to think about it a little bit because you have a choice between A and D. And so really to answer this question, you kind of have to jump down and look at this guy too.
That one's D. The one you're pointing at's D, and the one that we were discussing.
No, it's the other way around. It's the other way around because
No, that's
they
what
go
I
in
meant.
more.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, so.
So which one of these has got more contour lines on it? 6, right? So you would expect a little bit more steeper hill up there? So 6 is probably a better match for A. And 3 is a better match for D. Which has always confused me why they did this, because this looks a lot more like a D than the other one, but that's just me. Okay. And then number 5, the other one, process of elimination here. Oh, I guess there's 2 more. So 4,
C.
C.
5.
5. Now 5, they made it kind of nice for you to not confuse you a little bit, right? Because they say, here's the last contour. They conveniently made it nice and flat over here. Okay, but remember, contour lines are samples, so something could be happening in between that you can't see because it falls between the 2 contours. So this easily could have a shape of a small hill up here, but it wouldn't show up on the contours, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. Okay, any other questions on that, you guys? Good with that? Okay, what do we have left here? We have about
10.
yeah.
4 minutes.
So let me just point out something. I'm going to jump to just to remind you. Maybe Colonel Peoples showed you this already, but I just want to alert you to something before you get to the course next week, and then we'll probably just pick up with the next exercise the next time around. So let me get back into presentation mode here. Let's see if we can see this. Okay, this is the actual scorecard that we're going to be using next week. So this is going to be a little bit different than having what you had before, where you had the map on one side, flip it over, you got a textual description of it on the other side, and the punch cards, right? We're going to do it a little bit differently, and the reason I was kind of encouraging Colonel Peoples to go this way is so that you can do the map folding and not have to always unfold the map and punch it on the back, right? We want to use this as a navigation technique to make us more efficient, and so we're going to use a more efficient method of the punch. And so the punch, what I do, or most of the people, it's going to be a card stock, and we're actually going to have some safety pins, so you can like safety pin it down to the bottom of your shirt. And as you're out there, that means you can let go of it. You don't have to hang on to 2 pieces of paper anymore. All you've got is compass in the right hand, thumb on your left. Don't have to worry about the punch card. When you get there, you just flip it up, and you punch it. So if you were in control over 12, you just put the punch right over here. But and it doesn't show here because you don't have the orienteering font. But if we had the orienteering font here, you'd see a bunch of funny little symbols that mean reentrance, that mean ridges, spurs, that kind of thing. It will also be printed on the back of your map. But again, that's very clumsy to flip your map over all the time. So I really want to just encourage you to look at this in advance and just understand them. They're very simple. You don't have to memorize the entire suite of things. And then go from there, okay? Let's see. And this is what it will be printed on the back. So if you need to fall back and you just can't figure out what it is, either by what the little circle indicates, you could just, on the map, you could flip it over and get the text. So that's your backup plan. Okay, and then also on the back of the map, we'll be having a legend there too. So it probably is to your benefit to maybe look at the legend a little bit with the map. You guys will keep those for the next, well, I'll collect them and redistribute them, but we'll take us some time to go over with the legend next time so that you're comfortable with that before the event. Okay, and then I think we only got 3 or 4. So are there any more questions or anything you guys want to practice a little bit more or any other? Try. Okay. Well, if we've got 3 or 4 more minutes, then maybe. Nah, I think I'll reserve it for next time. Okay, so what are we going to do?
Okay, so you want to end up here, we'll go back, and anything else you want to display?
Let me go see if I just had something for a heads up of what the next part 1. So part 1 is going to be, whoops. All right. So the next section, we're really going to start concentrating on the route planning. Okay. What technique you use? We're going to introduce something called attack points. An attack point is just simply something that's close to the control, that's easy to get to. And so you don't spend a lot of time doing precision navigating for most of the leg from point A to point B. You're going to be going quickly to your attack point, and then you slow down and concentrate and focus on how you're going to get to it. We'll also be talking about this, how to stay in contact with the map, things called collecting features, catching features. These are things that help make sure that you understand where you are on the map at all times, because that's the make or break, right? If you are following a bearing at 27 degrees and you've counted off 350 meters, are you in contact with the map?
No.
No. Okay, that's dead reckoning, right? Which works. Dead reckoning is a thing, you'll get there, right? But the problem with dead reckoning is that if you make a goof, if you drift, if you have bearing wrong, whatever, if you make a mistake, you can't recover. You have no idea where you last were on the map, right? So staying in contact with the map is identifying features that you're going to see along that route, keeping track of it, using that thumb to track your progress. And then if you do run into a problem, you just back up a little bit to where you were before, figure out what was wrong, and continue on. Error recovery is a lot more graceful. Okay.
All righty, well, we'll conclude here and carry on.